guys,
I'm Hallee,
and I'm Jamie.
and this is Literal Nonsense.
Hey guys, welcome back to Literal Nonsense Podcast.
Hey.
The energy is at an all-time high over here, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So I had my shower this past weekend. Hallee looked like an adorable girly teacup. I'm so proud.
Thank you. I tried
Honestly,
just for you.
Yeah, no, I feel like you were probably like one of the most themed.
Really?
I feel like, yeah. Like that dress was great. I really liked
good,
it.
right?
It was a good dress. Yeah, it was like this like nice green with like big sleeves, but like modern as well.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
If I had the gloves, I think it would have like completed the look, but whatever.
But like I liked it with like sure, but I also liked it without them as well. And I like the shoes you picked.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you have fun?
I did have fun. I loved your dress.
Thank you.
Your fucking obnoxious ass bow in the back.
That was there. Like my mom literally had that.
That's insane.
Also, you know Laura, like so Laura's my mom, guys. My mom is not girly or frilly or any of that.
That's why I'm surprised that this was her dress.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was like the early 90s, but at the same time, I'm like, Mom, that was a choice. So I took my mom's dress, her wedding dress, and I got it cut down to a bridal shower dress. But it was a tea party, and so it was large and full of tulle. And it
Like
was
a
like
tutu.
yes, it was like a tutu with giant sleeves and bows everywhere. My mom is not like that. So I was like, what? Oh, I don't know if you were there when my grandma walked in. She started like ugly crying, and I was like, oh God. And I was like, oh God, okay.
No, I did not see that.
I was like stressed because my grandma doesn't cry. And then like my grandpa came at the end to get my grandma, and I thought that he would cry, you know?
Yeah.
And he literally was like, you look nice. I was like, okay. Didn't give a fuck. Like,
Thanks,
unfazed.
Grandpa.
Yeah. Like, didn't care. I was like, thank you. And it was nice, but I was like, whatever. Yeah, so now that's it. Now we're off
Thank
for
God.
6 weeks, and then
we're off for 6 weeks. Jesus Christ. This is like a
And
whole
then-
fucking full-time job. Going to
and
Jamie's wedding events.
I was talking to someone, and they were like, wait, so you have a job, you're planning a wedding, and you're extra as fuck with all of your bridal things, and you have a podcast, and you're like doing house renovations. And I was like, yes. And I go to the gym. I try. But yeah, if not, I think I would go crazy.
No rest for the wicked.
That's me. Oh yeah. Anyways, so that's our catch up. Guys, I think I don't want to say this to jinx this episode, but last episode audio, chef's kiss. Amazing. And so I think we got it.
Yeah.
I think we got it. God, I really hope so, because that was
us like 3 months to figure out that like we really shouldn't be together while we record,
which makes me sad.
For, like, bandwidth issues, whatever.
Bandwidth and echoing issues. So yeah, last episode we were not together. We are also not together today. It makes me sad to not be with you.
I know.
But I think our goal is to deliver good content, and then if we deliver good content and you love us, we'll get a studio and we'll have no more issues.
Yeah. Once those sponsors start rolling in, we'll have money for a studio.
We'll have guests. We'll have SJM on the pod after we just fucking...
You're going to have to put like a shed in your backyard.
Well, actually, I want to, in the back garden area, I want to make a little like greenhouse type thing, but like a library, like an outdoor library. That would be so cute to fucking record in. Are you kidding me?
So like you should get on that with your house renovations.
Okay, I'm right on it. Oh God, yeah, I will just right away do that. Anyways, so yeah, coming soon.
Add it to the list.
Right, our backyard library, aka pod studio, that would be so aesthetic and cute. Yeah. But for today, we are not doing that, and so here we are. And so we are on book 2 of Crescent City, A House of Sky and Breath. I feel like this is like trucking along the series, which I'm so excited about.
I know, thank God.
And so we're doing this book in 2 parts. So part 1, this episode is going to be chapters 1 through 40, pages 1 through 436. So roughly the first half of the book.
Yeah. And as usual, these things are chonkers. So We're gonna try our best just to kind of like,
roll it along.
yeah.
Last episode, we didn't math correctly.
No,
And it was an hour and 40 minutes somehow.
I literally
So,
thought it was like an hour 10. And you're
and
like,
then,
it's an hour 45. And I was like,
but we
okay.
sounded crystal clear and beautiful, so you're welcome, actually.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone liked the content. LOL.
All right,
Do
well,
people enjoy listening to us? Like, what's the dealio?
I mean, I hope so.
Are we just talking?
Hallie's having a crisis as we
Yeah.
start our episode.
Jesus, I'm like rethinking this. I'm like, do people actually like listen? Like, what is this?
I don't know how, gal. We're here for the ride. That's it.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a passion project.
It is.
First.
Yes.
The
And
fans will come along after.
right. So start your passion, sister.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. So this book kind of starts in a completely different way than what you thought the book would start off with.
Yes.
So essentially we meet this human and her name is Sophie Renast.
And we're like, who the fuck is Sophie?
Yeah, I literally remember reading that. And mind you, the first chapter, or is it a prologue? I don't really know.
It is a prologue,
It is a prologue, right? It's like 40 pages long.
It is mad
like,
long.
It's like the longest prologue ever. And you're like reading about this girl.
You just got over reading the first book and it took 400 pages to like understand what's going on. And then they're like, Sophie. And you're like, who the fuck is Sophie?
Yeah, literally. Anyways, so Sophie Renast is a human girl and she made the drop, which is not really heard of because humans don't technically have like magical powers. So what's the point of doing the drop, right? But come to find out that she is something called a thunderbird, which she's able to like suck in. Yeah, she's like able to like suck in energy into herself. And this is like an ultimate power. So like the Asteri have been hunting down thunderbirds and killing them because they are threatened by them.
Right, because I mean, you can really be unlimited at that point if you're sucking people's power.
Yeah, and I was talking to one of my coworkers and she said that the thunderbird is based off of some type of mythology.
Oh, which I mean, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, because SJM bases everything off of mythology. So
right.
But essentially, Sophie's trying to help her brother Emil escape from the human like slave camps in Kavala.
Real like I don't know. This was very like Holocausty to me.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
I didn't love it.
It's like a death camp. Actually, is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like talk of like the human rebels. So then we're introduced to this person called Pippa, who is the leader of this one unit. It's called the Lightfall Unit within the Human Rebellion.
The Ophion Rebellion, right?
Yeah. And she wants Sophie to like essentially work for her, I guess. Because she wants
she wants Thunderbirds, right? And like, so we had heard about Ophion Rebels the first book a little. That was that guy Philip Briggs was like part of the Human Rebels. So of course, because it's a small tidbit of the first book, SJM's like, now it's a main plot point, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, literally.
Thanks.
So basically, she's trying to help her brother escape from this death camp with this other agent called Agent Silverbow.
Classy.
Yeah, but she's caught by the Hind, who we know is a part of
the Hind,
or was a part of Sandriel's Triari. The Hind. I think it's the Hind. I don't know. I like Hind.
I like Hind.
Whatever.
Agree to disagree.
What's her real name?
Lydia.
Okay. Lydia Servos, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's caught by her and she's like got like shackles on her arms and legs and like with like weights and she's thrown into the ocean.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so obviously she's drowning. And that's how the book starts.
You're like, okay. And then you're like, well, I guess she doesn't matter that much. But just like similar to Crescent City 1, the characters who die in the beginning are like, what was their secrets? And it's like a whole fucking thing. Okay. So now it's part 1. As Hallie said, that was an epilogue or whatever. And so it's called The Chasm. Here we go. And so Hunt and Bryce open up the book. They're going to the ballet to watch Juniper. Now, there is right off the bat an allusion to the mating bond, which, shocker, fucking original idea, our girl SJM. Basically, she's talking about how they're sitting there, and she says, oh, I'm very aware of his presence. My magic is very aware of him, and my blood like answers to him. So you're
Yeah.
like, We'll also talk next book. I have a point I want to bring up about if I think they're really mates or not, because I'm not convinced. Anyways, I haven't even told you about this yet, so
Yeah.
put a little flag in it. Anyways, and so during this ballet, we also find out they have an agreement. And because the first book did not blue ball us
So
enough,
stupid.
they are deciding to wait 4 more months until winter solstice to have sex for the first time. I don't hate it because her reasoning is, there was all this passion and drama and they almost died and all this stuff. And she's like, let's get to know each other and see if we're like really compatible without sex, without our lives being in danger.
Mhm.
Which, fine, but
Okay.
I want filthy chapters. You know?
Give the readers what they want.
Right. And it's so unlike Sarah. Like, I'm like, girl, what?
What about like when we read Throne of Glass? There was like this is not a lot of
Okay, they
spice
say
at all.
Throne of Glass was young adult, but that beach scene,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The velvet wrapped steel.
Ugh. Oh, God.
I remember reading that at like 2 a.m. and literally screaming. I was like, did she really just use these words
Yeah, I don't
to
like it.
describe his peener?
I think that I do think Hunt and Bryce are her sexiest couple, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Reese and Feyre are like the cutesy couple.
Even though they are dirty, I'm like, after reading all her books,
No.
yeah, I don't know. And then like Aelin, should we spoil it and say who she's with or no? Because we didn't cover it. Aelin and her man,
Yeah.
they're also like just very intense, but they're like badass. Like I feel like Hunt and Bryce are like they ooze sex.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah, like I feel like Aelin and whatever his name is,
The man,
the man, are like,
a power couple
yeah, yeah,
who like happen to have sex.
yeah. Whereas
Hunt.
like Bryce and Hunt are like, you know, like that
Mm-hmm.
hot couple on a fucking raunchy reality TV show.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so that's what we open the book up with, and then of course we have to see what all of our other friends are doing.
Yeah. So there's a party at Rune's.
Amazing, like a frat house, literally.
Yeah, so their house that he shares with like Declan and Flynn are legit like a house, a frat house. And they always throw these crazy ragers. And the chapter starts off with this quote, but I don't have my book.
Oh my
Jamie,
god.
can you just
Oh,
read
I'll
it?
read it. Oh yeah, I will fucking read it because it's so worth the read. Of course, you don't have your book. I hate you.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm the worst.
Okay, this is the moment that everyone fell more in love with Rune. I liked her book one, but this was I was like yes.
Yeah.
Rune Dannon knew three things with absolute certainty. He had smoked so much mirth root that he couldn't feel his face, which was a damn shame because there was a female currently sitting on it. Automatically amazing. Great. Number two, he had downed an obscene amount of whiskey because he had no idea what the female's name was, or how they'd gotten into his bedroom, or how he wound up with his tongue between her legs. Also amazing. Number three, he really fucking loved his life, at least right now.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, King. Yup.
He's like great. Like honestly.
Also, not only is he eating someone out, but she's sitting on his face. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yep. And he has like a tongue ring and stuff and like a lip ring, whatever. Anyways, we're not going to
Yeah.
go too far into that because I'm going to get excited.
Yeah.
So,
Jimmy. All right. So, anyways, this is what's going down at the party.
10 out of 10 party.
Yeah, but like then some random guy shows up, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Turns out it's another Fae, and his name is Cormac, and this is Rune and Bryce's cousin. But it's from Rune's mother's side, so the Avalon
Right.
Fae who live on that island,
He's
who
one of
are
them.
who are descendants from the what was it called?
Starborns?
Starborns, yeah. He's from there. And we get a little bit of information into him. So there was like this big feud with like him and his friends, and then Rune and like Deck and Flynn or something. So basically, what happens is like
Rune's like busting his balls, like, I can get stars, or like, we're better than you. And then like Cormac's dad is like, good, how about you both try to get the Star Sword and see who comes out? And they're
Yeah,
like,
but then
fuck.
but Rune also mentions that it was their like what is
Ordeal.
their ordeal, yeah.
Which is like when
And
Fae are like tested.
yeah, to see if they're like
Worthy? I don't fucking know.
yeah, some weird shit like that, whatever. So basically they went into these caves to go get the star sword. Sword. Star sword. I
I
can't.
was waiting. I was like, she's
Oh
gonna do
my
it.
god, and I did it. And they like, have a battle to the death, but neither of them die. Um but Rune was the one who was victorious because he got the star sword, right? So like that's why like
There's beef.
yeah.
There's for sure
Um
beef.
Also, little tidbit, we learned that the Autumn King's name is Inar.
I didn't
Inar?
even remember reading that. So when I saw your like notes, I was like, did they say that? It's like
I don't
great.
know. I don't know why that stuck out to me, but I just thought it was interesting that like cuz we've only known him as the Autumn King,
No, yeah, I'm like into it.
you
Like
know.
I feel like that's like important. When she mentions names, she doesn't mention names lightly. So I'm glad
Yeah.
that you caught that. I had no idea.
Yeah, and she's very careful with her names. Like we still don't know Reese's last name.
Right, right. Which is gonna be a thing.
Like what if his
Maybe.
last name is Danan? Danon, whatever the
I'll
fuck it
throw
is.
up, actually.
Like that's insane. That would be fucking crazy. But
Yeah.
anyways, and then also in this part we learn that
Uh-oh.
Bryce is supposed to marry Cormac, her cousin. So
Yeah,
immediately I was
yes.
like, incestual, this is gross. I mean, technically they're not like, I don't think they're blood related, but like still.
Oh, right, because it's like
Like, I don't think they're
Rune's.
direct bloodline.
Oh, because it's Rune's mom, and Rune's mom is not Bryce's mom. So yeah, they're not.
Yeah, but
They're like step cousins.
Bryce has the star,
Starborn.
yeah, has starborn blood. So where the, because she's a descendant from Thea. So like, how?
Huh.
I'm confused. You know?
That's a very good point. I don't know. Either way, incestual in some regard, and I don't love it. But that's like Game of Thronesy, like they're like stay in the
Very.
bloodline. So the Autumn King is the one who is like setting that up, and he's like, "Yep, marry him," and she's like, "Fucking excuse me, whatever."
Oh
And
well.
so while this is going on, Bryce honestly does not give a fuck. She's like, "Actually, I'm not gonna do that." So fine, Bryce.
Yeah.
And so while this is happening, oh my god,
Mm.
happening. Am I okay? I'm okay. So Tharian, our merman with the cheetah stripes, tiger stripes, whatever he has,
Tiger
he's
stripes.
he's looking for Sophie as per the River Queen's request. So she's like, find her. And he doesn't really know why, but he has to do whatever the River Queen asks because he's engaged to her daughter. Now, we learned very quickly that he's not thrilled about this. I think he had sex with her once
He
and like
engaged her so he could.
yeah, like he just was super horny for her and then he was like, I will marry you, and now he's fucked and he's like being super controlled. He's miserable. He doesn't even like it underwater. He wants to live on land. Like he's like a
Yeah.
sad boy. And so he
He's
goes and
literally Ariel.
no, he literally is Ariel. Oh my god, and he's also redheaded. That's cute. I like him so much more now. And so he goes to the place where they think that Sophie is, and he finds the chains. Now, the chains were unlocked. Not like she's not in them, and they weren't like broken, whatever. They were unlocked. So either someone freed her or she freed herself. So we're like, is Sophie alive? No, we don't know. Now, either way, we now need to look for Sophie and like where's Emil? We don't know where anyone is. Okay. So Bryce bopping around, not gonna marry Cormac, whatever. And so all of a sudden she goes back home and Ethan's like bloody on her floor,
Mm-hmm.
Connor's younger brother. And she's like, what the fuck? Turns out Sabine kicked him out. Everyone like jumped him, and now he's like, I had nowhere else to go, which is very sad. Like,
Which
because,
was so bizarre also
well,
when
it's
I was
because
reading.
he defied her, like, during the battle against like the hell demons and like went to help Bryce.
Okay, like, yeah, but like,
No, it's fucked up of Sabine, but also, I mean, kind of true. Like, if he has no pack, like, literally the only contact he has is Bryce, which is also really sad,
mm-hmm.
you know? And so while they're talking, Ethan also mentions that he thought Connor and Bryce were mates, and you're like, ooh, that's like intense. Now, you're also introduced here to the different concept of mates, like in this world. So it's like a little different. Basically, she says there were several different definitions of the term mate. Though Bryce supposed that to Ethan, to a shifter, only one mattered. One's true lover predestined by Erd. The Fae had a similar concept. A mate was a bond deeper than marriage and beyond an individual's control. So that's the same as ACOTAR, but like wolves have mates, shifters have mates. So very similar, but like slight differences depending on the species. Just thought it was interesting that she kind of like changes it up a little bit.
Yeah. I could really go for like a book where there's no mating.
I agree. I agree. Well, and that I'm gonna bring this up next week. I I'm excited about it. I'm not convinced that Bryce and Hunt are mates.
Okay, I've also heard this like as a theory.
Um,
Like
yeah.
I've
Just a little like teaser for it. You know how in Throne of Glass, Aelin and Rowan are Karanam? Like
Karen,
their
yeah.
powers, like whatever.
Yeah.
As we go in this book, you'll notice like whenever like they have sex, it's all about like their powers. And it's not like as mating bondy as like Reese and Favor or Cassian and Nesta. It all
Mhm.
is like their powers are feeding off each other. And so I'm like, what if they're just like Karen Ann or whatever?
Yeah,
I
but
want to
Elaine and Rowan were also mates though, right?
correct, but they were both. Like there's a different like she
Yeah.
differentiated. So what if
So
Bryce and
who
Hunt are
so
just Karen Ann?
so who would like Bryce end up with if it wasn't Hunt?
Well, people also speculate or like theorize that she could be with Azriel.
I know. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk next week.
Cuz like Shadow and Light.
I know. Okay, and she is the owner of the Star Sword, really, and Azriel is the owner of Truth Teller.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll chat next week about that because I want to do like a deep dive into that, and I also want to research. The reason why I'm not saying it today is I want to research more about like the Karanin and like if I'm
Okay.
saying even right, or I want to also like refresh like what that really meant in Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
So
Sick.
put a little bookmark in that.
We're going to have a great discussion.
Love it.
So this was something that I was like actually really shocked by. Hypaxia and Lydia are sisters.
Right.
Hold the
And
front
also,
door.
okay, isn't like Hypaxia like not like I think they describe her as like tan, like dark curly hair,
Yes.
and Lydia is like blonde as fuck. I mean, not that that's like not possible, but like
Well, so they share the same mother,
okay, the different dads.
but I think they have different dads.
Okay, then that there you go, genetics. That explains it.
Or
Well, no, they probably both are.
that might be wrong. They might have the same dad but different moms because Hypaxia's mom, the witch who died, she was like she came from a long line of necromancers. And so like
Mm,
Hypaxia is a necromancer as well.
right,
But
which also
Lydia does
shocking.
yeah, but Lydia is not a witch. So they
Right,
must share a dad and their moms are different.
fair. Okay.
Anyways, so like that was like super interesting. Especially because everything we know about Lydia is not positive and Hypaxia is like a nice person so far,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. Um Also, since Sandriel is dead, part of her Triari is now part of the Triari at Crescent City. So the Hammer and the Hellhound
Uh
are
oh.
now with Hunt and what's his name?
Ah! Isaiah.
Isaiah. Yeah.
I was like, Ethan. Nope, wrong one.
Wow. I was gonna say Dominic.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I don't know. Very
I,
strange.
honestly, I had to think back to last episode or 2 episodes ago when I was introducing them, and I was like, Isaiah
Yes. Yes.
Tiberian, and
Yes.
that's the only way that I remembered.
That was so funny.
So actually, that was a great way to say the names because it struck a chord with me. And just as a refresher, so the hammer is Pollux Antonius, and the
Hmm.
hellhound is Baxian.
Yeah. So
Argos, what's his last name? Something like that.
yeah. So last book we weren't really introduced to the Hellhound. Like we knew of him, but we didn't like know much. Definitely got more information on the Hammer. But
Because the hammer's
anyways,
a sadistic fuck.
yeah. So Hunt is like pissed, right? So like
Oh, hates these
they're
guys.
like at like the building like where they all meet up,
Yeah,
right?
where like the archangel like lives and all that, like
They're
their
like
like house.
condos or something. Yeah.
There's a name for it, but I don't want to say comitium. Is that
Oh,
right? That's how it
Comitium,
comitium. Okay, that sounds better. You said it better.
whatever. Yeah, so they're there and they stroll in and Hunt's like, fuck this. So he gets into a fight with them and
Yeah,
he
I
gets
think mainly
thrown.
Pollux, right?
Yeah, because they hate each other. Like there's long
Hate.
standing
Well, right,
beef.
because if we remember, guys, Hunt was part of Sandriel's Triari as well. And so
Yeah.
he like worked with these guys and they're fucking
Like, yeah,
psychopaths.
he knows like they're terrible. So he's like pissed. So whatever, they get in a fight, he gets thrown into the cells. And also at this point we learn that there's been a new archangel appointed, and her name is Celestina.
Yes.
So she throws them in the cells, and then Bryce comes, and she's like all pissed at Hunt for getting into a fight. But Baxian, the Hellhound, he makes a very interesting comment, like straight off the bat, and he was like, "Oh, like I'm glad somebody finally put a bullet through Micah's head."
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
you're like,
immediately, I'm like, who?
because
Interesting.
even Bryce was like, okay, tickle me intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baxian, and again, I think Baxian gave me Reese vibes.
Really?
Like, not like by description or not by like really anything, but when I say Reese vibes, I mean like, oh, we're hearing he's bad, but like we know Pollux is bad, right? The hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've heard like he tortures people. Pollux is also dating Lydia, the Hind.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Say how you will. So they're two fucked up people. And like everyone else we know is fucked up. Like the Harpy, the Hawk. Okay. Baxian, like he's been clumped with all them, but like there's never been like particular stories about him. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
like Reese. And then like already making comments where you're like, that's interesting, which I feel like
Yeah.
that's how Reese was too. Like you heard he was bad, you heard he was bad. But I didn't really know if I believed that even from the get that Reese was bad.
Yeah.
And that's how I think I felt about Baxian as well.
You know, honestly, I kind of feel that Baxian kind of gives me like Kale vibes.
Great. I fucking hate Kale.
I don't know
Kale,
why you do. He's
I
not
think he's
bad.
such a pussy.
He's
Like
not
he
though.
he in my head is fucking Kristoff from Frozen. Just like a doofy motherfucker.
Yeah, but like his book, like Tower of Dawn, was
I don't know,
such
I
a
liked his book.
good
I liked his
fucking
book.
arc for him. It was
But
so
okay,
good.
so we're talking about Throne of Glass just in case everyone's like, who the fuck is Kale? um,
Not me when I first read it, thought it was Chol.
I think Kale, like is
Kale.
better.
No, I
Yeah, I
thought
don't
his
know.
name was Chol.
That's fine too. I don't care what his name is because I hate him. But there's a lot of people online who think he's a pussy and don't like him either. So this is like not like me being crazy.
Yeah,
Like this
I
is like a,
know.
a universal thing.
But
Like,
he like didn't like piss me off.
there's just so many better characters, and I'm like, you're kind of like just like he's
Oh,
like in a lane to me.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I can get that. I just don't hate him.
I hate him.
I mean,
Well,
like, if we're gonna like talk about characters, I mean, obviously, I have my favorites, but
yeah. I'm insulted that you think Maxine is like Kale. To be honest.
I think it's the like the righteousness kind of part to it,
Okay, fine. I can get behind that.
and like wanting to do good and right.
Okay, fair. I accept your reasoning. So, okay, enough of our tangents. Let's get back to the mystery that is Danica and Sophie because
Oh God.
Danica's back. Well, she's not, don't worry, but her bullshit is. And so Tharian, while he is looking for Sophie, he finds out that Danica and Sophie know each other. And you're like,
Wow.
I'm sick of you. So he was looking at Sophie's email archive because like he's trying to figure out, if she could be alive, etc. And all of a sudden, there's emails with Danica. And you're like, excuse me?
So Danica is a human sympathizer,
Yes. Which
which
is
could get her into a lot of trouble. But she's
mm-hmm.
dead, so it doesn't matter.
And in these emails, the two that they mainly talked about are titled in the subject Project Thur and Dusk's Truth. Okay, you guys know me and the
Mm-hmm.
Dusk Court. I am fucking hyped.
I think
So,
this was when you were like, "Yeah, this is confirming the eighth court of
yeah,
dusk," and I was like,
literally.
"You were probably
Like,
right,
literally,
Jamie."
it's called Dusk's Truth. Hello. And, like, the prison
Hello.
that I want to live on the Dusk Court. That's me. I'm a Dusk Court court person. Like,
Do you think that's your court?
Actually, it might be.
Like, if you put on the sorting hat for Prithian, like, where
Uh,
would you end up?
I do really like fall, but I don't like their vibe. So I think dusk would be nice. Also, I like every season, so I don't think I'd want to be stuck in one. So I think I'd be part of like the
The
the daytime,
solar?
yeah, the solar courts. I think I'm dusk. I'm locking in.
Wow.
What about you?
I don't know what I am.
Probably night.
You think?
Probably. Yeah, I see it for you. Plus, then we're like kind of like close together,
Aww.
which is cute. Okay. And so,
Adorable.
of course, in this, we are finding out more about Danica that she did not tell Bryce. So, again, back to the question, how fucking close of best friends
Yeah.
really are these two?
Could you imagine?
I mean, I'm angry. I mean,
Yeah, I feel
yeah.
bad for Bryce. Like the whole time, it's like she's getting like swung left and right with
I
like people
know.
telling her like, "Hey, you actually don't know your best friend."
Well, and like they're not wrong. So that's like even worse.
I know.
And so Tharian comes back to Bryce and he's like, "Hey, um, did you know that Danica and Sophie knew each other?" And she's like, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "So was Danica and Ophian Rebel?" And she's like, "I don't fucking know. Like, clearly I know nothing about this woman." Like, she she makes a comment at this point, and she's like, she was more concerned with what snacks we had in the house than being a rebel. She's like, "I'm confused. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even understand what's going on." And so Bryce is like overwhelmed. And so she goes and asks Fury, and she's like, "Was Danica hiding secrets? Like, was she a rebel? Was she this? Was she that?" Because now Fury's kind of talking to Bryce again. Fury's also dating Juniper, which is so cute. We love it.
Yeah.
I love when like a bad bitch dates like a softie.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
obsessed. And so yeah, so anyways, Bryce goes to Fury and she's like, "Do you know if Danica was hiding anything?" Because as we know, Fury's like pretty much in the shit. Like she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And Fury's like, "Oh, well, the only secret I know about Danica is that she's a bloodhound, which means that she could send bloodlines and secrets in them."
Mhm.
Bryce is like, "News to me."
Yeah. I thought
Like,
that was a really cool thing though. Like
yeah,
if you
that
could
is
have a
cool.
superpower, like
Sick.
being to tell like who's related to who or like whatever is like that's pretty cool.
But then also, like, I think Bryce alludes and she's like, "So she knew me and Rune were siblings. Like, that's fucked." Like Danica
Yeah.
just doesn't like share anything, which is so crazy. And we also
The
find out
fact that
that,
she's able to like split her personality like that,
yeah, I'm like a little,
a
don't
little
love it.
concerning.
No, I agree. And so we learn that this gift of the Bloodhound comes from her sire, which is her father. At this point, we don't know. Bryce does not know who her father is. Danica was like, "He's not worth mentioning. Never talked about him." So Bryce is like, "Sabine probably just fucked some random lowlife. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But he's a Bloodhound, so that's pretty cool." Um,
Wait
so
till we
yeah.
find out
So
that little information.
right, because Danica is a fucking psycho. Like Danica really was just like living a whole life.
Okay, but also like we'll talk about it, but like the whole like thing with Sabine and
Him, ick.
him,
Ugh. Well,
weird.
Sabine having sex with anyone makes me feel
Yeah, Sabine just
uncomfortable.
yeah.
She for sure
Honest,
is into like BDSM, which no shame, but like she wants it.
yeah, I think she's a violent woman and
She is.
she likes the pain.
Again, like no shame, rock on. BDSM it up, everyone. But she for sure, yeah,
Yeah,
I see it vividly in my head.
for sure, same. Like I have like this like one image of her.
Okay.
Like I could just like imagine her.
Is she? I hope her legs are not spread because in my
No.
mind they. Oh, okay. Thank God.
No. Oh no, not like
Oh, I was like,
I'm not like
wow.
imagining her sexually. I'm imagining her like what she looks like.
Oh yeah, no, I could see her, and I
Like even
also.
like her appearance is like very
Mm-hmm.
harsh and
Yes.
like you could tell she's a violent bitch.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you.
Oh well, you thought I was like imagining her having sex.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, and you were like, it's vivid. I was like, okay. I was like, pop off.
No.
Anyways.
Back at the ranch, I had this English teacher, and in high school, and she would like go off on tangents, and then like when she'd like pull it back, she'd be like, "Anyways, back at the ranch," and like that's has like
Stayed with you.
stayed with me since I've
Okay.
been like 15.
Like ranch? Like is that what she's trying to
Yeah,
say? Okay.
but she said always said ranch.
Hmm.
So I don't know if she was doing an accent. I don't really know where that came from.
You can implement it here. There you go. You're kicking it off.
Miss Joseph, if you're listening, you rock.
All right, Miss Joseph.
Anyways, so they're basically trying to figure out how Sophie and Danica and everything is involved with this grand scheme of the rebels and the Horn. Because
Right.
yeah, the Horn is still a major player in this, of course.
Well, because we know it's Bryce. Like, she is the Horn, but we're
Yeah.
like, what? Why is this all like intertwining?
Yeah. So basically, Bryce Rune.
You got it.
Rune Dannon.
Okay, I love this part. So
Yeah.
please,
Okay, so Rune, Bryce, and Hunt go back to Bryce's apartment, and fucking Therion and Ethan are just like chilling in the living room, and Ethan's just like stroking this white furry cat,
and he's
and
like,
he's
your
like,
cat is so nice.
yeah, and they're like looking at him like, what the fuck? Because it's Adis, the Prince of Hell, one of the princes of Hell.
Bryce is like, that's not my cat.
Yeah, which is crazy. So like, I think he ends up like
Yeah.
shape-shifting into like his like
Well, he does, and
humanoid form.
and Ethan's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's like, I was just petting you, and he was like, that was nice. I love that the Prince of Hell is a cat. Like, amazing.
A white fluffy cat of all
Per-
things.
Perfect. Truly nothing better.
I love it.
Amazing.
So at this point, we get some information from Adis
Yes.
about Queen Thea, Helena, and Peleus, which you're
Yes.
like, holy shit.
So basically, we learn that Peleus killed Queen Thea because, oh god, you scared me. So the sword actually belongs to Thea's female heir. And then he's like, not the male offspring who corrupted her line. And we're like, what are you talking about? Oh, this is how Rune and Bryce, it's not a thing. Because
Rune
Bryce,
is not actually.
yes, Rune is Peleus's heir, and Bryce is Thea's heir.
Yeah.
So basically, we learned that Prince Peleus, the so-called first starborn prince, was actually an imposter.
Yeah.
So Thea's
Who's
other
the imposter?
right, he is. And so Thea's other daughter, what's her name? Helena.
Yeah.
So Peleus used the Star Sword and the Horn to set himself up as a prince, like all powerful.
Yeah.
And then he raped Thea's daughter, Helena.
Yes.
So not good.
He's a bad
Obviously.
guy.
He's a bad guy. So yeah, Rune is Peleus's heir. And
Yikes.
Bryce is Thea's. So really Bryce is the true Starborn heir, but they both have like Starborn gifts.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. That's what we were talking about before. That comes around.
But
Mm-hmm.
Rune Starborn gifts are very hard to like do. Like
Summon. Yeah, he's like not good. He's like they're weak.
Yeah, they're not. He definitely has more of his father's side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Bryce, you know, she has this fucking 8-pointed star in the middle of her boobs.
Yeah, she's like
and
Starborn and
yeah, and it just fucking flashes like whenever something happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, anyways, so then Cormac shows up to the apartment because let's just fucking throw more.
Of course he does.
Crazy shit in. And Adis is like, oh yeah, by the way, that guy, he's an Ophian rebel.
Adis, honestly, Adis, one of my favorite fucking characters.
No,
he's a cat.
Great.
He's like as like shit stir as like the cereal. Like I really like Adis.
Yeah, and also, so Cormac is Agent Silverbow, who we get introduced to in that first prologue chapter.
Right.
And
so
I
he's
remember
like a big player.
Yeah, and I remember reading that and I was like, oh my god, fuck. Like, where is this gonna go now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he, like, now he feels the need to, you know, defend himself. So he's explaining why he joined was because he felt that it was right. Like, he doesn't subscribe to the whole, like, Asteria are the rulers and this is the hierarchy of things. So he says that he would rather die for the freedom of their world than to continue to live in the hierarchies that they're in, which I thought was very interesting because Cormac comes off as a very arrogant, rich, self-serving, fey asshole.
And we learned from like Rune that like, you know, he's a dick. So you're like, no, you're not a dick? Okay.
It seems like
that one caught me off guard.
And everyone, it's like everyone has like a fucking poker face, man. We don't know who anybody is.
No one. I think Bryce is the only one who's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, she's like, "This is who I am." Like, that's it.
Yeah, she's like over
Because
it,
even when Hunt
honestly.
fucked her over and was like plotting to like use the synth to overthrow the Asteri,
Mm-hmm.
she had no idea. Like,
No.
I think Bryce is just like, this is who I, and she's always with anyone she meets very much herself. And I
Yeah.
think that's really hard for her because
Wait, but like,
everyone is so like
no,
two-faced.
but she's also not because she pretended to be the stupid fucking party
Mm,
girl so no
mm.
one would take her seriously.
And she does it again this book. We'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah, so like
You're
actually
right.
no one, you can't trust anybody really
Yeah,
in this
actually,
book.
fuck them all.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But anyways, going back to the whole Sophie plot.
Mm-hmm.
Cormac kind of lets them know that like Sophie knew this like really like crazy like gossip about the Asteri. And she was using it as leverage with the Ophian rebels so that she could go save her brother from the death camp and like have their assistance basically.
Right. She's like, you have to save me because I know really important shit and I won't tell you until we save him.
Exactly. And he also reveals how Danica is involved because Danica was suspecting foul play with the Asteri. So her and Sophie were working together to figure it out because Sophie was able to work at like in the Eternal City, like in
Mm-hmm.
their like library or whatever.
Yeah, like the
So she
archives. Yeah.
yeah. So she was able to, after like years, or maybe it was just a year or two.
No, I think, yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, she, like, built
It
her
took
way
a
up to, like,
while.
get into here. Yeah.
Yeah. To like find the info that Danica was like suspect of. But Danica, as we know, ended up dying before Sophie like reached that,
The big
goal.
truth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she did
So
learn it, and now that's what she's using as leverage.
exactly.
Whew.
Layered.
Yeah.
So
And, yeah.
so yeah, and Therion's like, well, I need to fucking find this Sophie bitch or her brother at this point.
Right, because they're like,
Because
does
they don't
a
know
meal? Yeah.
they don't know if Sophie's alive because the chains were left at the bottom of the ocean, but the body was gone.
Right, and they also don't know if Emil knows. Like, maybe she told him. You know, like,
Yeah.
there's like a family secret. Like, they don't really know what's going on. And so somehow we've now just have a new main crew. It's kind of like the inner circle, but they don't call it anything fun. So we have like Bryce and Hunt, obviously. We have Ethan, who's just like the fucking honorary house guest. We have Tharian, and then we have Rune. And then by default of having Rune, we have Declan. Is his name Tristan or is it Flynn? Or is it Tristan Flynn?
Tristan Flynn.
But they call him Flynn?
I
Or they
think
call him
so.
Tristan? I don't know. Declan, Emmett, and Tristan Flynn are also involved. They have like two first names, both of them, and like their last name is a first name, and it fucks me up.
Yeah, it's Declan Emmett and Tristan Flynn, but they call Declan Deck and Tristan Flynn is Flynn. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, sounds good to me. Well, his two roommates are involved.
Whatever.
And then Cormac is involved because he's like, well, now you guys all know I'm a rebel. And so, like, now they're all kind of like rebels. And it's like, and Hunt and Bryce are like, we were told to not do any of this, and here we are. And they're going to kill
Yeah.
all of us.
Yeah,
Great.
because they're supposed to be living a nice, quiet life.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a second. And so they're trying to figure out how Dusk's truth and Project Thur relate to things. So Bryce's speculation right now, she's like, well, Dusk is Lightfall, and those are the rebels, like one of their squadrons. So she's like, maybe. And then Project Thur, Thur is a thunder god, so Thunderbird. Like she's like playing around. She's like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think those to me is SJM trying to throw us off. I don't really know what Project Thur would be, but I mean, I'm convinced Dust Truth is like that had to have been like again the Avalon Fae. I think
Mm-hmm.
Dusk Court is who moved over to Crescent City. That's why
Yeah.
they're abandoned. Like their
I
whole
think,
court maybe moved.
yeah, I think the whole Thur thing, like, I think of Thor, like
Mm-hmm.
Thor's hammer.
Well, I think the Thunder
And
God.
doesn't that have, like, lightning or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Causes thunder, whatever.
maybe it has to do with like Hunt's dad.
Oh, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't know who Hunt's dad is.
Mm-hmm. And he is
But you
like
know who does know?
Jezebel
Yes.
and Adis.
Yes.
Um, and so they're just whatever. They're like, all right, fine, take a break, team. Go, team, go. And so Ethan finds Danica's sword when everyone leaves and starts playing with it and jumps on the coffee table, like
That was
swinging it
great.
around. Yeah, just like fucking around. I like Ethan a lot. And of course, because there's this giant man on a coffee table, he breaks the table.
It's
Now,
giving. Do you remember that? What was that from? It was from a movie, and the guy like has just like his tidy whities on and like an open button up shirt, and it's like just put those
oh,
old records on the shelf, and he's like he like
is it Ferris
slides
Bueller's Day
down. He
Off?
like slides down the hallway.
Is it Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Ugh, I don't know. I'm really
I
bad
know
with
exactly what you're
movies.
talking about. It's like an old 80s movie.
Yes, that's what.
Mm,
Well, whatever it is, that scene was to me
yes,
like made me think of that.
agreed. 100%. He had sunglasses on for sure. And so the coffee table breaks and a bunch of papers fall out. And you're like, what? And Bryce comes back and catches Ethan doing this and is like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh, did you put papers in here? And she's like, no, there was no drawers in this table. So like they were like hidden in there. Now it's all of Danica's college papers. And there's,
Random.
yeah, but there's info like on the Asteri. And it basically was saying like, they say they're from stars, but like who's checked this? Like, are they telling the truth? Where do their powers really come from? If they are stars, they're fallen stars. And she's kind of just like, this isn't adding up. Like
Yeah.
this all powerful thing. Like no one's ever heard of like a fallen star, but these 6 or 7
Yeah.
were. Like we just believe that.
So she's really, leaning
Yeah.
into that fucking rebellion shit.
So she's questioning who are even the Asteri. Now
Yeah.
she also mentions like First Light and just like how things work in the city. And she writes a paper that says Dusk Truth and like left it blank. So Bryce is like, fuck. Like, like she's like, ah. So yeah, so we're starting to like slowly get things together. And so in their quest to all try to work together, Cormac and Rune are trying to like mend their estranged relationship. And Cormac asks Rune to fill in for Sophie. Sophie used to be the contact with one of their spy agents, Agent Daybright.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rune, because he can mind speak, as we know, he can go into your mind, very similar to Reese. Again, they're descendants of each other in some fashion, so that is why that's happening. Um, and so Cormac is like, hey, I think you can get in touch with her via this mind telepathy. So can you speak to Agent Daybright and like basically spy for us? So now Rune is not only like a rebel sympathizer, but he's like
In the rebellion.
actively rebelling. And so they're trying to coordinate a hit on the spine. The spine is the North-South Railway. It's like the main artery for the war supplies. So they're trying to like attack the Veneers supplies
Mm-hmm.
and like corrupt them. So Rune again is like actively rebelling. And so he needs to speak to Daybright in order to coordinate because she'll have intel and she's like a super spy. And so she'll tell him, the inside scoop, how to do
Super
that.
spy.
Yeah, that's her.
Um. Wow, this is a lot. Anyways, so also Therian and the River Queen's daughter. Disgusting, honestly.
Weird vibes.
Yeah.
I don't
Also,
like it.
do we know her name?
I don't know.
Like, do we ever learn her name? I think
I
he only ever refers to her as my betrothed or the River Queen's daughter.
It may have been in the section that we're talking about right now when they had that interaction. I just simply didn't feel like writing it. If it was, I just felt like it was not needed.
Anyways, so she gives
Maybe
me
not.
she gives me Elaine vibes.
She gives me, I don't know, vibes. Also, I don't like the River Queen. I don't know, Tharian, and just like, it's weird. Like, he just hates his life so desperately.
So the
Like,
River Queen reminds me of Maeve.
Okay.
Not fully, just a little bit, but then also she kind of reminds me. Did you ever read like the Shadowhunter series by Cassandra Clare?
Mm-mm.
So there's a Fae Queen, and she reminds me of her.
Okay.
Anyways, not really important, but whatever.
I like
If anyone's
the
listening
image.
who knows what I'm
They're
talking
like,
about,
yeah, they
you
get
get
it.
it. Yeah.
They get it.
But anyways, you could just tell he's unhappy. Like he
Yeah.
basically does everything in his power to avoid her.
She literally comes up
And
to him and she's like, I want to have sex. And he's like, fixing a boat.
yeah,
Okay.
and she like wants to like do things with him, right? And he's just like not like
But he like, then in this part, he invites her to the surface and like the mom freaks out. Like, it's just like a weird,
yeah.
I just think it's weird vibes and I just don't
Because
like
she's
it.
like grown, right? The
Yeah.
daughter's like
And
grown.
I get the premise that like he's being controlled by her. Like, he's like, her master of intelligence, whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I just don't know if I feel like this plot is needed. if I like it. I just don't.
I mean,
I'm just like, ew.
it eventually sets up the stage for what he does at the end of the book.
Yes.
Is that in the
Yes.
end of the book, or was that in the prologue of the third book
I don't remember.
when
I'll
he sells
remember.
himself?
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. I think it's the end of this book.
Right?
I was saying yes, and I had no idea what you were talking about because I haven't read the end of this book yet this read because I simply
Oh,
could not do notes for the 5th time.
I think
Um,
it might
it's the
actually
end.
be
No,
at
it's
the
the end of this
beginning.
book.
It
No,
is?
no.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because the beginning of the next book was like all those big revelations.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, anyways. Tangent ended.
We'll get there when we
Um,
get there.
but anyways, the relationship's weird. She's weird. He's weird with her. Whatever.
They're a bunch of fucking freaks.
Yeah, they're freaks. Also Bryce and Hunt talk about how like they're like, LOL, remember how we said we were gonna live like quiet
Yeah, this is
lives
the
and like
part.
not get killed by the Asteri? Yeah, well, now we're doing this rebellion shit, so we're kind of fucked.
But like they also say like they're like, but we were never gonna do that. Like we're just
No.
they are too righteous. Like they like stand for what's
Yeah.
right. So they're like, none of this is right. So here we are.
Yeah, and Bryce is still on a quest to figure out who the fuck Danica is. So like, come on.
Poor Bryce.
And now she has to, now she's trying to find this fucking 12-year-old boy. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, whatever. Anyways, they also decide that they're not going to wait to have sex until solstice because they're like, well, we might die at any moment, so might as well just get to it, right?
And you think that the wait is over, but it is not.
But it's not. So like, Bryce and Hun are like, what are they doing?
She's
They're
giving
not
him a
having
blowjob
sex.
now.
Yeah, she's giving him a BJ, and like Ethan's obviously in the next room, and like he's
And he's a wolf,
supernatural.
right? So he could hear everything.
Yeah, and he was like,
I opened the book, don't worry. Yeah, of course I have it.
please do it. It's
So
so funny.
I audibly giggled the other night reading this. So like Hun, he has like whatever. She gives him a blowjob, whatever. And Ethan yells and goes, "Please have sex a little louder." I didn't hear everything that time. And then Hun like afterwards like growls at Bryce and he says, "I'm gonna fuck you senseless." And Ethan yells, "That sounds medically dangerous." I love Ethan.
He's
Ethan and
great.
Adis are like my top in this book. But I will
Yeah.
say just a little caveat to that. I read this the other night on the couch and I giggled like out loud. And Ryan was like, "What?" And I was like, honestly, this is too layered to explain to you. Like I would have to be like,
Yeah.
well, Ethan's there and he has super hearing and then they're having
Yeah.
sex.
It's
Like
too
I was just
much.
like, you had to be there. And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm
Don't
not
worry
doing
about
it."
it. Don't worry
Yeah, I
about
was
it,
like,
sweetheart.
I can't. Yeah, love them. Hysterical. Great job.
Yeah, so Hunt's like all pumped up, obviously. So
Hyped.
he falls asleep and he enters this like weird like dream pocket realm and he
Mm-hmm.
meets one of the princes of hell, Apollyon.
Well, he means like he's like the deepest. Like he won't. This is
Yeah.
the Star Eater. He won't. Like they can't even speak his name in Crescent City. Like
Yeah.
Apollyon. Like they can't. He's like the all
He's like
powerful.
Voldemort,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
he who shall not be named. But
Right.
he's like having this whole fucking conversation with them and he's like, you need to like work on your powers and like
Mm-hmm.
you and Bryce hold the key or some shit like that.
Right.
It was just like very like, you're like, great, okay, SJM, like thanks
Well,
for that fucking tidbit now.
mind you, even in this dream, Hunt thinks that he's like delusional from this fucking great head that he just got. Like he's like, something happened to me. He's like, this girl fucked me up. Like he's like, what? Like, yeah, but basically like in the thing, the whatever that's happening, Apollyon tells them like they're like conduits of power. And he's like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like I didn't know that about myself. So that's weird. Yeah, that's just weird. And
But
so,
we do see that happening later
oh
on.
yes, don't worry, we're getting there in like a few minutes. And so, whatever that happened, and so Rune, we go over to him, and he does make contact with Agent Daybright, so more like mind, mental, pocket realm type shit. And she's veiled as fire, he's veiled as night. She then accurately names him Agent Night. Thank you, Agent Daybright. So original. Um, And so, yeah, so that happens. They've made contact. Now that they've opened up this mental bridge, they're able to contact each other without trying. And, like, if they're sleeping, if they're in trouble, we will see lots more of them. And so, Hunt is called in by Celestina. Celestina? Celest?
Celestina?
Celest? Whoa. He's called in by the new Archangel. And basically, Baxian kicked Pollux' ass because he was trying to rape someone. Yay, Baxian. Thank you. But again...
Like, this is, like, one of those moments where you're like, okay, but Baxian's supposed to be an asshole.
Right, and you're like, but he's not. And he's like, and like, in this interaction, he's like being fucked up and he's like being mean to Pollux and like clearly hates him. And so, Hunt, what shirt are you wearing?
LOL. It's sick. I got it from Marshall's.
I couldn't even finish my point. Is it Twilight?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Jacob with the long hair.
Amazing.
Whoa. Shirt, right?
I stopped mid-sentence. I'm so sorry. Wow. Thank you. Great. Fantastic shirt. Anyways, I don't even know what the fuck I was talking about. So anyways, so basically, yeah. Baxian clearly hates Pollux and Hunt is like, I thought they were like cool. I thought Baxian was also a dickhead. What's going on? So okay, fine. More kind of sketchy Baxian stuff in a good way. Now, Celestina asks Hunt to stay after they all leave. And so Celestina tells Hunt that she was Shahar's like best friend.
Crazy.
And she tells Hunt, like, I tried to buy you from Sandriel. Like, I knew you were being tortured and like I could never let someone that Shahar loved suffer that, but I couldn't keep doing it or they'd get suspicious that like I was a rebel sympathizer. And then she basically says to Hunt, like, I wish that like what you did to Sandriel, like I could have done. And Hunt is like, oh fucking K, ma'am.
Yeah, and
like,
at this point he's like kind of, you know, torn as to like, he's like, can I trust her?
Right, because Micah's like always played mind games and like been like, I'm your friend, and he was fucked up. So he's like, is this all like a plot? He's like, I don't know. I always liked Celestina. I felt like I was like, she comforts me.
Yeah, I thought she was very
I thought like he was skeptical. Yeah, I thought he was skeptical for good reason, like his trauma. But I was never like, oh, she's plotting. Like I was like, I believe her.
Yeah, same.
So that's how I felt. And so we see Baxian again after Hunt leaves his little private meeting. And Hunt asks, why are you so different? And he's like, I have my secrets, you have yours. And you're like, come on. What happened to Baxian?
It's giving Eris.
It is giving Eris. He's like a Reese Eris. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that for him.
Yeah. So, you know, still trying to find a meal. Ethan and Therian are kind of like on the hunt. They've kind of like teamed up. They're kind of like the like leftover characters, I feel like in that circle. So
yeah, like they're both like thrown into it. So they're like, do you want to be friends?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Which I think is really cute. But they find bodies that have a meal scent on them, and they're also human. They're all human, but it seems like that the way the bodies were found that they were tortured, right? And so like they're assuming that they were tortured for information
and like they say
about a meal,
because a meal's human, but he's a thunderbird, so they could tell it's like different scent, and they smell like another human scent on the body. So they're like someone's tracking a meal and seemingly again torturing these people because they came in contact with a meal. So they're like, who's torturing them? They think it's Pippa. They say that. Like they're like, we think it's her.
Yeah,
or like
they don't like Pippa.
No, because even though she's working for the human rebels, they're also kind of not like they're like in the middle. Right, because like she's like the other end of like
she
fanatic.
Is like a fascist.
Yes. And like they're like, yeah. So we'll talk about that too, but it's like she's trying to overthrow the hierarchy, but she's also a power-hungry psychopath. So
yeah, like she will take down anybody to get like her ends.
Yeah, weird vibes.
Like she is a very much the ends justify the means person.
Which never good.
Not good, yeah. So then we have some talk about like these other worlds, right? So like Bryce and Rune are walking, and they're talking about the other worlds, gods, like just more fucking Easter eggs about.
They basically say like there's something guiding all this. There's some game afoot bigger than what we can grasp. And he's like, and then they talk about hell again. Hell's another world, another planet. What happens when the worlds overlap? And then she's like, we were all immigrants into Midgard. Like, what became of our home worlds, our home gods? Like, they're having like a real like philosophical chat. Yeah. Like
they're like in this deep fucking conversation, and all of a sudden Rune gets fucking snatched by a reaper.
I remember
And
being like, what?
and I think reapers are kind of like the fucking, what are those things from Harry Potter?
Dementors? Ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
good.
I
Mm-hmm.
think like that's what they remind me of.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bryce is like, what the fuck? So they like, Bryce goes on like this whole thing. She's like in the sewers. She's like,
There's mad reapers.
yeah, exactly. And basically, the Reapers say that the Prince of the Pit,
So Apollyon.
yeah, is also searching for a meal in the Bone Quarter.
Which they've
Which,
been speculating that Emil's been in the Bone Quarter because the hint that Danica left
yeah,
Sophie was like, go where weary souls find relief. And they were like, sounds like, like the afterlife.
yeah,
So they've been thinking it, and now they're like, okay, like Apollyon searching for him there kind of confirmed that he's there.
mm-hmm. So yeah, Bryce is fighting to get Rune back, and then Cormac shows up and like helps her. And we learn that he can winnow.
Yeah, he just winnows the Reapers out, Rune
Yeah,
out,
but they
Brace
don't
out.
call it winnowing,
They
right?
call it teleporting.
Yeah, which is so modern.
Right. Yeah, no, literally.
And Bryce uses the Star Sword and fucking kills the Reapers, and there's black blood, which is interesting because the Reapers are already dead. So
Right, they're
technically,
unkillable.
yeah, they're unkillable, and then they also have black blood, like the Valg in Throne of Glass.
Who are also like unkillable, dead-ish type
Yeah.
things. And like the cereal also had black. Like so all these like things have black blood. And they all are like spooky, creepy, undead dead things. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah. Sometimes I swear I'd be like really thinking about this shit. And like I like really go into a circle, and then until like I hit a point where it's just like none of it makes sense.
Yeah, this
You
whole
know?
podcast.
This is why it's called literal nonsense.
We don't make any sense. No, we do. I think we do. I think
I think we
we're
do.
again, the meme in my head is that guy with like the red string connecting all the dots looking fucking crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's like the energy I feel talking about this every episode.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the
Okay.
series, so it's like crazy. I'm sure like when we do like standalone books, like,
It'll be less
yeah,
chaotic. I don't know.
maybe I wouldn't say chaotic. I think I'm going to have very strong opinions about many of the books that we're going to be reading, but if,
Yay.
just like it's, I don't know, it's different because it's like the universe itself. It's very multi-layered.
Yeah, the shit is a lot, but I don't know. The black blood, I think it relates. And so, I mean, again, we mention these things because we speculate. So we shall see.
Yes.
But Bryce fucking kills these bitches. And she's like, holy shit. And so, in true SJM fashion, that ended part 1 of the book. And so we go right into part 2 called The Abyss. So I believe, if I'm right, is it getting deeper in hell, like the levels? I think the chasm is like,
Yeah.
and then the abyss is the
Which
last part
is,
called the
yeah,
pit. I don't
because
know.
I mean, like that's like a thing. Like there's
We're
like
descending deeper into hell.
yeah, there's 7 realms of hell, right?
Right. Yeah. Are we
And
descending deeper? Maybe.
yeah, so level 1 is like not that bad, and then it gets worse the deeper you go down.
You're like, it's not too bad here.
Yeah.
We're good. So yeah, so anyways, this is called The Abyss. And so there's a lot of talk of the holy number 7 and like it's a lucky number, all this stuff. I find that interesting because clearly 8 is a big number in Akatar. Like it's like the 8-pointed star. We speculate that there was at one point 8 courts. So I do find it interesting that there's such emphasis on 7 in this book because I'm also like it's close enough where I don't know. I'm just
Mhm.
like I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. Like they say,
Do you think you're reading too much into it?
I don't know, maybe, but she says, I mean, they literally mention 7 in this specifically. 7 planets around a massive star. 7 Asteri, technically 6 now, to rule Midgard. 7 princes of hell to challenge them. 7 cities, or 7 gates in this city through which hell had tried to invade this spring. 7 and 7 and 7 and 7. Always that holy number. Always. So, I don't know if I'm looking too much into the 7 and 8 thing, but Rune is like going on a tangent about sevens.
Wait, but isn't 7 also like a holy number, like in the Bible?
The Wiccan that you're talking to would not know. but potentially.
I mean, I grew up in the church and don't know. So
I mean, I know like on like a slot machine, sevens are a lucky number.
777. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe.
Maybe it's 3.
Yeah, I don't. Okay. I think any number like 3 times is like lucky. I don't know. Look it up. Let me know. And so at this point, Bryce starts saying she feels like she never knew Danica, and I'm like,
Yeah, it
yeah,
is
girl.
7. It is 7.
Okay. Yeah. So SJM did go
Whatever.
real biblical with this book, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, she did.
Anyways, and so yeah, so Bryce is like, I feel like I never knew Danica, and you're like,
Like, you're right.
yup, you never no, you're right. And so yeah, just a point because I'm like, yeah, that's very accurate. And so they decide to go to the meat market to look for a meal because, again, that quote, "The weary souls find relief." She's like, well, people do drugs at the meat market. Maybe he's there. That could be like another thing. And so Fury and Juniper are there and Hunt, and they split up and they look. They decide that he's not there. They rule it out. And so they're like, all right, back to like the bone quarter thought. Now, they make an excuse. She says that they're going to the gym, which is when they go to the meat market. She doesn't want anyone else to know that they were doing this. When they actually go to the gym, they have like this weird oral sex scene.
It was such. I felt like it was so random.
Yeah, Hunt just like throws her on a counter and starts eating her out. I'm all for some like sweaty makeouts. I just felt like it was very emphasized that like they were dirty and I didn't love it.
I just
Like
felt like it was just like it wasn't like a nice curated scene.
no, and like I said, like I felt
No.
like her emphasis was really like we were sweating, and I was
Like it
like,
wasn't
ugh.
like
Like she makes a comment at one
one
point.
room, one bed kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the one
You
cabin,
know,
one. It wasn't
I don't
like a
even.
good trope.
No, it wasn't a good trope, and I don't want to. I don't want to read it. I don't want to find it honestly, but I
No.
distinctly know that at one point she basically says like he's taking off her pants, and she's like, ugh, like I'm just so sweaty, like I can't even like think about it, and I'm like, ew.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
SJM
sometimes
be
like
writing some questionable scenes for sure.
right. Sometimes like you just got to do what you got to do, but I'm also like I feel like you didn't need to get so detailed. Like I'm all about it. Like I can imagine in my own head, right? Yes, you're working out, therefore you're sweating. A little glistening sweat and you have sex. Okay, fine. I don't need you to keep mentioning how dirty they are cuz now I'm uncomfortable. You know? Like they're like musky. Ugh. Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
So fine.
Musty.
Musty, musky, dank,
Musty,
nasty.
crusty,
Yeah, I hate
dusty.
it. Ugh. Okay.
Blech.
So, during this weird gym oral, they tell each other they love each other. What a time to say that. Then after this, they're talking and they declare each other mates, and they're like, "We are mates."
Which is
Um,
such a profound statement to make,
and
considering
it's
that
like not like
Bryce was so against mates.
yes, and they also have a conversation like, can mates even be interspecies? Like they are
Oh,
a
yeah.
fae and an angel. And they're like, well, we are. Also interesting, it's not like they are mates, they say they're mates. Like they declare it.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Which is again why I'm like, we'll get there. Okay, fine. And
Yeah.
so again, due to what the Reaper said and the fact that Emil's not in the meat market, they're like, let's go to the bone quarter. So they're about to go and Baxine interrupts because he's always fucking around.
Yeah.
But again, being kind of fine. He's like, I won't tell anyone. And you're like, that's weird. Okay. So now they go over to the bone quarter. Now there is obelisks because we love a good obelisk. And so let me find the quote because again, seems a little sketchy as far as the whole series is concerned. Where is it? Here it is. So they're describing the obelisk and say, Bryce halted suddenly between two black obelisks, each engraved with a different array of those odd symbols, word marks. Anyways, the obelisks and dozens more beyond them flanked what seemed to be a central walkway stretching into the mist. Okay, I'm sketched. And so basically, we learn because they go to ask the Underking, who's the ruler
Mm-hmm.
of the Bone Quarter. They go to ask him, and they're like, "Did you send those Reapers?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, great." So we learned that Apollyon sent them, and so the fact that Apollyon sent them, they kind of like baited them to be like, he's looking for a meal in the bone quarter. He's not looking for a meal in the bone quarter. He just wanted them to go to the bone quarter, and we're going to find out why.
Well, then I also think it's interesting, too, is, like, Reapers aren't just from the bone quarter.
But that kind of makes sense because, like, hell, like, I would assume Reapers.
I mean, like, yeah, but, like, it's, again, just, like, another layer, right, of, like, these creatures.
Yes. Well, yeah, but he even says, like, some of the Reapers, like, not rebelled, but they like, chose their own side. So, like, some of them, like, went back to hell. And he's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So he does, the Underking says, like, yeah, this happens for some of them. Now, as they're talking about, like, coming to the afterlife. And he's like, oh, the lowers are of no use. And Hunt is like, no use for what? And basically, he tells them this huge revelation. People think you go to the bone quarter to have an eternal resting place.
No.
The Underking
eats you.
Eats the dead, and then he like he takes a little bite out of you, and then the rest of your power goes
a little nibble.
Yeah, a little nibble. He's like, come here. And then the light that you have left in you is second light, and it's used to power the city. Okay. So you don't rest. You get eaten, and then power the city. You power a laptop, and you get your ass bitten off. So I mean, not good. And so they're like, "Excuse me." Now they're shocked by this, rightfully so.
Yeah, this isn't like no knowledge.
And so basically, like that whole like passing on like the river where like they dump the body sometimes or they don't.
Full of shit.
It's just people that are powerful, and he's like, "Come on over, babies."
Yeah,
he wants to eat you. Okie dokie. So that's huge. That's like essentially the equivalent of like learning here, whatever your religious beliefs may be, friends. Yeah. That's not true, and you're powering my MacBook right now. That's fucked.
I think like this part is like where Bryce is like, well, I guess it doesn't fucking matter that I traded my place for Danica.
Well, she's like, thank God, actually.
Yeah, but then she also feels bad because she sent her to that fate.
But the Underking even tells Bryce, he's like, like I thought like that was a great trade because Danica's powerful and like you had no power, but now that I know how powerful you are, he's like, I'm gonna eat you right now. And she's like, time out. And like they literally go to him and they're like, so why are you telling us all this? And Hunt's like, because he's not gonna let us leave. So now he sends this shepherd after them, this like crazy fucking dog. It's almost like the three-headed dog, Cerberus.
Yeah, from Harry Potter.
Well, I think he's also from like Greek mythology as well.
Oh, really?
He's Hades' guard dog to the underworld.
Oh,
so
yes.
Same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cerberus, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, cool. And so Bryce and Hunt are using their powers together against the shepherd. Now, Hunt remembers what
blow that thing to pieces, bro.
Hunt remembers what Apollyon said, and he goes to the dead gate and he puts his hand on it, and he channels all that power.
He like siphons the power.
Yeah, so he's like almost like Thunderbird-esque. And so Bryce has the great idea to jump in front of Hunt's lightning bolt. It goes in the sword, and she is a conduit of his power, as Apollyon said, and fuck shit up. So they realize that Apollyon made this whole lie to go to the Underking to ask about a meal because he somehow knew this would happen and that they would learn that they could channel energy and that they could also use their powers together as conduits. So they're playing into this greater scheme. They have no idea. They don't even understand it. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of like, oh, we were played for fucking fools. Great.
Yeah.
So huge revelation and will be very important. Again, kind of lean toward my canon theory, but okay. Just saying.
Well, okay. Enough of Bryce and Hunt.
Let's have more crazy revelations.
Yeah, whatever, their situation thing is. But so basically Lydia has this right-hand man, and he's called a Dreadwolf, and his name is Mordock. And like he like does like all her stealthy, sleuthy kind of shit for her.
Tortures people.
Yeah. And he's also Danica's dad.
And you're like, awesome.
So this
big deal. This is like a bit like a
this
not
is
just
a
like
big thing.
Yeah.
No, because Mordock is like he's like on the same level of as like Pollux. Like bad.
Piece of shit. I imagine him as like just a shaved head, like angry looking motherfucker, like an army guy.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
The guy in Avatar, like the big, like bad army general.
yes,
It,
the blue avatar, right?
yes, the blue Avatar.
Yes.
Literally him.
Yeah. Actually,
Hmm.
yeah, you're actually really right.
Thank you.
Um, so he is a bloodhound, as we know, and so
Yes.
that's how Danica is a bloodhound. Um, so basically, they're kind of fucked because Mordok is in the city and he's like, sniffing around.
Literally.
And
Literally.
yeah, and the hind and the harpy, like they're always together, like a lot of the times.
So now they're also here.
Yeah, they're also snooping around. So Rune is like, ah, fuck, like this is not good. But he's like, oh, like the hind is so hot. Like she's like one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. But too bad she's like a sadistic fuck.
Always happens like that.
Yeah. But I guess I don't know. Is it an interesting parallel to Akatar, Jamie?
Um,
Explain your process in
Thank you. I
this.
will. Thank you for the opening. So, I just think, little spoiler, guys. If you don't want to hear it, skip ahead. Reese and Lydia are both portrayed as these evil people. And so it's interesting, again, how then, Rune, Feyre, whatever, respectively, describe them as the most beautiful people they've ever seen.
Interesting.
Because I just feel like that, to me, as soon as SJM says that, you have to automatically be like, little warning flag, there's more to them, they're not evil.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just
Okay.
how you have to think.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like that's a good connection. I don't think I disagree, but I don't think I
Would have been like,
100%.
aha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I'm like, that's like a bold statement, like the most beautiful person you've ever seen. And that was about
Yeah.
Reese and Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both seemingly bad. And they're like, oh, it's such a shame the bad person's beautiful. Like, they're probably not bad. So there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
So while they're out in the city, Rune I think is with Cormac, right? And the
With Ethan.
or Ethan, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, Mordok knows Ethan's smell because I guess he's been to the
The
den
den.
before,
Mm-hmm.
but he's never smelled Rune. So Ethan's like, they're like, we need to get out of here. So like they do, and they end up at like a bar or
Mm-hmm.
something, and then all of a sudden like the hind and the harpy come in and like
And they're
sit
like,
next to Rune and
fuck.
Ethan, and they're like, hey, you want to play some poker? And they're like trying to shake them down and like intimidate them.
Yeah, and I think we forgot to mention, it's not a big deal, but like the reason they're all here is because Ibrahim, the other archangel, and
Oh yeah.
Celestina are getting married. The Asteri are making them mate.
Yeah.
And so Ibrahim is the replacement of Sandriel, and so the remaining of her Triari are these
Yeah.
people, and now that he's here, they're all in the city. So like now we have like essentially all of Sandriel's old Triari, and it's like not good when you're being rebel
Yeah,
sympathizers,
no.
obviously.
Yeah.
So that's why they're here, just as like a little caveat. Either way, just is not good that they're here, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't even think Bryce and all of them know that they're here, but so Bryce, Tharian, and Ethan. Oh no, Ethan does know because he's in the bar. But okay, fine. So they go to the Mystics, and it's because Ethan really wants to know if Connor was eaten, because
Mm-hmm.
Bryce tells everyone like, "Hey guys, so we learned some interesting stuff," and so he's like, "Is he under king food? Is he alive? Is his soul still there? Whatever."
Yeah,
So
he
we
goes
meet,
into like this whole crisis over his
which
brother.
rightfully so. And so they go to the Mystic. We meet this man called the Astronomer. He's a creepy fuck. And
Yeah.
he has a space map, and it's called an orrery. Basically what it is, it like it helps answer like who are we, where we come from. It's like a big like space map, and the Autumn King has one. We also know Reese has one.
Yeah.
So interesting. We're introduced to it. That's kind of like what they're called. So just so we know. And so the mystic, he sends all of his like weird little mystic people. They go off to find
He
this
sends all
answer.
his weird little mystic
Well,
people.
because like one's a man, one's a woman, one's both. So I don't know
Yeah.
what's going down, but it's because they need like the perfect balance, they say, of like sex and identity and like life. Okay, fine. So they send them off to get answers. Now they end up in hell, and the Prince of the Ravine is trying to make contact.
Yeah.
His name is Thanatos. Now, we've heard this name before.
Mm-hmm.
Thanatos is also an Akatar. He's a high Fae lord who lives in the Hewn City, which, I don't know, guys. Hewn City is kind of fucking hellish to me. Also, Thanatos in this book is Prince of the Ravine, and I feel like Hume City is like in the mountains, like it kind of is a ravine. So, and okay, here's my thing. We do speculate if SJM's making these connections, or if she's unoriginal, she's not using the same name. Like that's just not. She's not that unoriginal. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the same person.
I know, but like I can't. I also, for whatever reason, can't get behind that 100%.
I just think she really briefly mentioned Thanatos and Akatar to the point where you would not remember, and that's purposeful.
But he's not a high lord.
He's a high fae, like, well, I think he's like a lord in the sense of like under like the mountain, like you know how like Moore's parents are like lords.
Mm-hmm.
I think like just like that. Like he's not like a high lord. He's a high fae, comma lord,
Gotcha.
not a high fae lord.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I've seen this theory online. I like it again, just for the point of there's no way she's that lazy. I don't know, and so
or is she?
I guess we'll find out. And so ultimately, we learn from the mystic and the astronomer that the Underking was told to not eat Connor until his allotted time was up. And it was an order, quote, dispatched from the dark. Don't know what that means.
Strange.
Intrigued. So, yeah.
Strange. That whole thing with the mystics and stuff is like, was so interesting to me. Like, I thought it was like really cool.
I did like it. I think it's just opening up more of like the metaverse, not metaverse, massverse. There we go. Massverse and like just like worlds and creepy things. So I was into it.
Yeah. So basically we kind of end the book really around Hunt. Actually, well, we're gonna end this part of the book, which is about halfway through, and it's pretty like Hunt, like heavily focused on Hunt. So basically he gets in trouble because he was supposed to be at this wedding event for Celestina and Ibrahim.
Yeah, it was like their like opening.
Yeah, but the whole thing with Bryce and
like I think like which Sabine like came there and it was like she was just being a bitch and she, like she came mad late and was like, why is Ethan here? I was like, he's been here for fucking weeks, bitch. But whatever.
Yeah, there was just like beef
drama.
Ethan was staying with Bryce. So like Bryce called Hunt and Hunt was like, before all this, told Celestina, he was like, I'm gonna be by your side regardless, like you can count on me, kind of thing, like we're pals. And then he's like,
and then left.
Went to Isaiah and was like, yeah bro, I gotta dip.
Interesting point though that I do want to mention since we brought that up is Baxian follows Hunt, and when Baxian's there, him and Sabine have mad tension.
Yes.
And they're like, how do you know Sabine? And he's like, oh, in passing. And Bryce even says in her mind, she's like, there seems like more than that.
Keep that in mind.
Just saying.
Yeah, so Celestina's pissed that Hunt didn't keep his word. So she was like, now you're going to have to live at the comitium for 2 weeks as your punishment.
And so he's like, I want to have sex with Bryce.
Yeah, exactly.
They still haven't had sex. He's miserable.
He's very upset. And then also like just like cute little things like Hunt and Isaiah have like a cute like little bro moment like during lunch while he's staying at the comitium. And then after that, like him and Baxian have a cute little bonding moment.
They're playing like video games together.
Yeah, because Baxian doesn't know what video games are. So Hunt's like, oh, you're a weirdo. Let me show you.
Which, good for Hunt for like opening up.
Yeah, which I thought was cute. Well, he's tasked to like show Baxian around.
Right, but he's actually like, at that part, he didn't have to do that. And he's kind of like opening up, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, and like Baxian kind of alludes again that like things have changed or whatever.
Right, and we're like, what?
So you're like, okay, Eris, calm the fuck down. Like, why don't you just say it with your chest?
Pussies.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna end this episode with Thion. He's kind of debating like, is this shit even worth it? Like, if we're trying to de-establish the patriarchy, right?
We're fighting the man.
Like, who's gonna step in? Just somebody else who's power hungry at that point?
Because
like,
he's thinking of the River Queen, and he's like, she also wants to overthrow like the Asteri and like the hierarchy so that she can be in a higher place.
Exactly.
So he's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, like what is the point? So he's also in an existential crisis. So everyone's in an existential crisis in this book.
But also like, guys, what are we doing? Like he makes a very valid point. Like we're fighting this endless loop, and even like Hunt with Shahar, like it's never gonna end.
No.
So what are we fucking doing?
And that's why the third book takes place in Prithian.
Correct. And so yeah, guys, what the fuck are we doing? We don't know. So next week is going to be fucking huge.
It's gonna be crazy.
The amount of like I can't even think, like conspiracies that are revealed, and the way this book ends is simply the most
crazy
cliffhanging plot twist I've ever read.
Chill out to the floor.
You all know how it ends. But we're gonna react to it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So next week, tune in. It'll finish up this book, and then we're going right into Crescent City 3, as mentioned. We're doing that in 3 parts, and we're going to read one part and record, and read a second part and record. So we're not going to know how it ends, and we're going to be like just saying our thoughts.
Yeah, so we can have like our own theories, which is like super exciting.
And they could be proven or disproven.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited for. So that's really fun. So yeah, guys, we'll see you next week. This is another little bit of a chonky one, but not as chonky as the last one.
These books are just huge, you know, so it's hard to concise it all because there's just so much going on.
There is a lot going on, but we hope
you enjoy.
I don't want to make 3 parts.
No, for sure.
There's not enough going on because then we would just be on really bad tangents.
Yeah,
so, you know,
it's not worth it.
No. So next episode, we're going to just be screaming the whole time. So we'll see you guys then. And then we're finally reading Crescent City 3. Hell, woohoo!
Oh my god, I'm so freaking pumped. I've been waiting 5 months for this.
We decided to start a podcast and said, okay, everyone. Well, we love you, and we'll see you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.